Today, we're going to talk about selling homes in a depreciating market. But before we do so, let's first talk about selling homes in an appreciating market. There's pros and cons. During an appreciating market, like a rapidly appreciating market, like during COVID, buyers hated that market. They felt like they were being taken advantage of because they would have to make offers hundreds of thousands of dollars over the asking price just to get the seller to entertain their offer. They felt like sellers were being unreasonable because those sellers are like, hey, I ain't doing your repair requests. I ain't doing that. And I don't care if your appraisal comes under value because I got 20 other people in line willing to pay more and offer better terms. I literally had buyers physically crying because they did not get the house that they wanted. I mean, crying. And they would get so upset and emotional and yell at me because I didn't get their offer accepted. And wow, what did I hire you for anyway? I should have just gone direct to the listing agent, yada, 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 yada. Okay, they were being spoiled rotten brats. They wanted to buy gold and they wanted to buy it at a discount. You don't do that in an appreciating market. After 10, 20 offers, they realized, wow, I got to get aggressive. And I did feel sorry for them because if those buyers spent, let's say $100,000 over the asking price, 2-3 years later, guess what? Their house was still significantly higher than when they purchased it in a very short period of time. And why the heck am I telling you that? This video is on how to sell a house in a declining market. It's because in every market, there's kind of a winner and a loser. And in a declining market, it's the homeowner that is the one that is kind of the loser. They're not getting what they want out of the market. Now, I have had my license for 23 years, and I'm telling you that in a rapidly declining market, it feels icky. It feels icky. There's good people that just happen upon bad times. And I feel like there's more affluent people that take advantage of people during that time. They almost sniff out desperation and just squeeze and bleed some of these homeowners. And it's just really sickening to see. So the purpose of this video is to help you navigate through a stabilizing/declining market and not to be taken advantage of. All right, hold on. I'm not saying that all affluent people are bottom feeders or people who have financial strength are only looking to prey on the weak and take advantage of people and grind them for a profit. I'm not suggesting that. But what I am suggesting is there are individuals, some home buyers, investors that are looking to squeeze out every single little penny and grind and bleed people who are in a bad situation. I hate that. So in a declining market, you'll start seeing these people come out of the woodworks. Right now, I'm starting to see it, and we're not even in a rapidly declining market. So there will always be those opportunists out there. Be aware of it. And that's what I'm trying to do in this video, is just to protect you and let you be aware of some of the decisions you can make if you are planning on putting your house on a market in a different market. So what the heck kind of market are we in right now? Well, according to Zillow, we're in a neutral market, meaning the housing market doesn't favor buyers and they don't favor sellers. It's neutral. Sellers have to give a little bit. The buyers have to give a little bit. Oh, just so you know, today is Halloween 2025, just to timestamp this video. And the reason why I'm in my primary bedroom right here is because it's far away from the front door because we have trick-or-treaters that are driving me absolutely crazy. So that's why I'm in my bedroom today. But let's put the slide on the screen for you. Now, what you'll notice on this chart is at the bottom, it has the years, and on the left-hand side, it has the temperature. Currently, Zillow's giving our housing market a score of 50. And how did they come up with this score? According to Zillow's economists, they use an economic model they call the Zillow Housing Heat Index, and that gauges the competitiveness of the housing market across the country. They consider things like price changes, inventory levels, and days on market to come up with their score. So you will see that in 2018 and 2019, it was more of that neutral market, very much what we're experiencing right now. And then in 2020, 2021, 2022, you will notice that the market really heat up in the favor of a strong seller's market. But folks, look at this chart. We are not in a strong buyer's market. We're not even in a buyer's market. We are in a neutral market currently. So I thought it would be kind of fun to go through Zillow's heat map from the last 5 years. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly, but just a friendly reminder, when you see red, that means strong seller's market. When you see orange, it means seller's market. When you see that light blue, it's neutral. And if you see that blue, Smurf blue, for some of you who are older understand what Smurf blue is, but that means buyer's market. And that dark navy blue means strong buyer's market. Let's put Zillow's 2019 heat map on the screen for you. Look out for your state and your area. You will notice that it's mainly that light blue, even some darker blue, some opportunities for some buyers. But for the most part, it was more of a neutral market back in 2019. Now let's look at 2020. Holy smokes, look how red everything is, okay? A lot of seller opportunities in 2020. Let's go look at 2021. There's a lot of red patches across the nation during that time. Now look at 2022. It started to cool down a little bit. Remember in 2022, we had a really strong 2022, the first part of the year, and then rates got up to 8% and the market really cooled down. 2023. Now what's amazing is look at the Northeast. It's really red on the West Coast. There's some hot spots, but in middle America, it was a very neutral market. Now look at 2024, very similar to 2023. And now look where we are in 2025. There's a lot of light blue, meaning neutral. There's some darker blues, which means there are some buying opportunities. But still, some of the areas up in Northeast, there's still some hot spots in that area. So some of you are reaching out to me saying, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. My market's still hot. Well, you're probably in that area. Why are we looking at Zillow's heat maps? Well, because I'm trying to demonstrate that there's shifts in the market. If you look at 2019 and compare it to 2020, there is a massive shift. It went from a neutral market to a strong seller's market. And if you look at where we are today, for the most part, we're in a neutral market in the United States of America in 2025. It's much different than 2020, okay? 2020 was in favor of the sellers, strong favor of the sellers, and now it's a neutral market where the buyer and the seller have to cooperate to come together to make a transaction work. Now, the problem that I'm seeing out there right now is most sellers think they're living in 2021 or 2022 and think it's like, ooh, and most buyers think it's 2008, 2009, a strong buyer's market. So when you know there's a market shift, let's not live in la la land. Let's know our data and know how to properly price your house strategically to have a good result when the market shifts. And no matter how it shifts, whether it's appreciating or declining or stabilizing. All right, Audra, get to the point. We're here tuning in because we want to know how to sell a house in a declining market. All right, tip number one is you have to know you're in a declining market. Now, in my area right now, it's a neutral market. Now, I just showed you the map of the United States of America. Some of you are actually living in a declining market. The first thing you have to do is realize you're in a declining market. Now, when I was selling homes in 2008, 2009, and even in 2010, I'm telling you, the biggest challenge I had is I could not convince the sellers that we were in a declining market. It didn't matter how much data I gave them, didn't matter how many times I walked them around the neighborhood and showed them the different houses that were closing. A lot of them were in denial and made excuses for the reason why those houses were at a lower price. Oh, they didn't have good enough location, or, oh, that one went through a divorce and they were just buyers selling it. So don't kid yourself, okay? You need to hire professionals that are going to give you wise counsel. They need to be active agents that know your micro market, that can tell you what's truly going on in your community or in your neighborhood or in your surrounding area. When you're meeting with your agent, or if you're doing your own research, you should know what the average days on market. That means how many days it takes to get a house under contract. So the longer it takes to get a house under contract, it really kind of represents the sluggishness of the market. Now, the other area you should be looking at is average price per square foot. Now, you all know I don't like using average price per square foot to evaluate a property. However, I do like average price per square foot in an area to see if it's trending up or if it's trending down. So if that average price per square foot is trending down in your area, you know that potentially you're in a market that's declining. So if you're noticing a lot of price reductions or a lot of closed sales that are significantly lower than a year or two ago, then you are potentially in a declining market. One of the most effective ways to sell your house is to price it properly. You're in a declining market, okay? If you start here and the market starts going down, you're just going to chase the market down with price reductions. So if the market's going down, let's say, whatever speed, you have to work with your real estate agent on that. You're going to want to be slightly below it. You want to catch the buyers on the way down. We talked about an appreciating market. So when the market appreciates, if you're making an offer as a buyer, you're going to have to go slightly above market to get the deal because you got a lot of buyers that are competing against you. So if you are a seller in a declining market, you also want to get ahead of the curve. Or downturn, I should say. Now, I know a lot of you out there are like, oh, of course she's going to say that. All real estate agents tell you to drop your price because then they sell it quickly and they're just greedy guts. They just want to get paid quicker. Well, I'm not going to just give my house away. Fooey on that. Realtors are the worst people in the world. You have no idea how many times I get that. But here's the deal. For those of you who are watching me right now, I get no benefit out of telling you this. No financial gain. I'm not representing you in the sale of your home. So I'm kind of a neutral, balanced party. You also have to realize that if you've had your house, let's say for the last 5 years, you have equity in your home. And if the market starts declining, which I don't see that in my area, like I said, in some areas it is declining, just price your house slightly below the market and you will sell it because a lot of buyers will notice that and jump on it. You're not giving your house away. You're strategically pricing your house in a declining market. So when the market starts declining, a lot of you out there get really tight with your purse strings and start skimping on really important things. And one of those important things is that realtor. So you out there that are trying to cut corners are trying to find that inexperienced agent or that discount brokerage house that's just going to put your house on the MLS and, deals are going to come in and you're just thinking that's going to be good because, you have to get every penny you can out of your house. That is a fatal mistake because that agent, more than likely, can't afford maybe their gas money or can't put food on the table. And those are the agents that are going to push and grind and make you drop your price potentially below market value. I see this all the time where agents are like, they're the lender and then they're also the realtor and then they're the stager and then they're your dentist. So when you're hiring an agent, you want to hire a professional that can give you proper guidance. They should know all the data. They should be coming prepared. This should be their full-time job. In a declining market, you need to have the proper support. Cannot stress how important that is. I have a referral program, so for those of you who are looking to hire a buyer's agent or a listing agent, we're happy to provide some agents for you to interview. And just so you all know, we do it a little differently here at the Lambert Group, where we actually contact the broker to make sure they're in good standing, have the sales. So when you are connected with one of our agents, they've already been, highly vetted. So if you're interested, there's a link down below. We also have a resource guide. It's free to you. You can also download it below. It has listing agent questions, a buyer agent questions that you can interview these agents. It's extremely helpful. But don't skimp in this area. Just don't. Super important. Another area that I see home sellers really skimping on when the market starts declining is that they just take the attitude of, oh, I'm just giving this house away. I'm not putting any more money into it. Phooey on that. I'm not paying for my house cleaner or my pool person or the gardener. And I'm not paying my HOA dues either. Phooey on that. I'm done. This is depressing and I'm not putting any more into it. Folks, that is the worst thing you could do because what you're doing is you're advertising out there in the universe, I am in a distressed situation and I'm on fire sale. You don't want that. And by the way, in a declining market, there's probably a lot more competition out there because that's usually how the prices drop is because there's a lot of inventory on the market. And with a lot of inventory comes a lot of competition. So you want your house to sparkle the most. Now, I'm not saying go upgrade your house beyond market value. I'm saying keep it tidy, keep the services in place. And if you can't afford the services, you do it. I mean, I don't know how to put chlorine in a pool, but I'm sure you could figure it out. And a little weed whacker can do some jobs. A little elbow grease with a sponge and a vacuum can do wonders. Don't skimp in this area. A lot of you don't do this. And I'm always like, why are you not doing this? And that is you need to cross-qualify your buyer. So what does that look like? The buyer makes an offer and they go, here's my pre-qualification. Most you sellers are out there like, oh, looks good. Okay, let's sign the contract. No, when you send your counter offer back, you tell the buyer that you are accepting their offer, but they need to cross-qualify with your lender of choice. You just write the lender in there. 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. The reason why you want to do that, especially in a declining market, is because those lenders out there, their guidelines get restricted. Lenders get less risky. They get really picky. So back in 2008 and 2009, let me tell you, it was really hard to get a loan. And the hardest thing to overcome was getting loan approval. So I always ask to have the buyer cross-qualify with my lender of choice. So if their knucklehead mortgage lender couldn't get it done, mine was ready and had all the documents and could close on the deal. It was plan B. In a declining market, you need to have plan B for the lender. And for you buyers out there, you also need to have plan B, okay? If you want the deal. I do have a lender on my team. You're welcome to use him for pre-qualifications or just shop rates. He's great. Some of you have already reached out to him and are blown away with his service and his rates. So his name is Ian. I'll put his information right here. No obligation, but it's always good to have somebody cross-qualify any opportunity and makes you go into a transaction with a lot more confidence. All right, intermission time. Folks, you're not gonna believe this. I reached 100,000 subscribers. I know you're going to be so thrilled because I'm never going to bug you again. And it was so sweet. I went into my office this morning and my whole team was celebrating. I don't know if you can see these balloons. It says 100. They had cupcakes and mimosas and oh my gosh, it was such a celebration. I got some beautiful flowers and oh my gosh, you know what? And I wanted to show you this. Talk about the perfect Halloween treat. See's candy. Oh my gosh, Jessica, thank you. I don't know if I thanked you for this, but for those of you who do not know, marzipan is my all-time favorite. And by the way, if you ever want to give me a gift, See's candy. I love See's candy. Dark chocolate, by the way. But here's the deal. The reason why I'm bringing this up, because I'm super, super excited. I literally have been crying all day. I'm just so emotional. That's why I don't have great makeup on. But anyway, I am doing a drawing November 13th in my live stream. We're going to do it at noon. We'll be advertising it. We will be announcing the winners there. And these are the prizes that we're going to be giving. We're going to be giving away a design consult with Julia Kessel. We're going to give away this beautiful little vase, which I just love, from Alice Lane Home Collections. And we're also giving away a couple home tools. So tune in November 13th at noon. I will link right here, the drawing, so put your name in it. We're going to shut it down on November 11th. This little piece of candy is called Pure Joy. Pure Joy. Oh my gosh. Anyway, thanks for everybody's support. In a declining market, I cannot tell you how important it is to spend time really creating an ironclad contract that's in your favor. So what happens when the market starts declining is you finally get an offer and you're so excited. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be rescued from my house. And you're not really paying attention to the terms, or you don't want to scare the buyer away. So you agree to things that you probably shouldn't. So the buyer already has the upper hand. And then they do that home inspection. And then they start coming up with these unreasonable repair requests. So unreasonable. But you're like, oh, well, you know, market's not great and I just want to get out of my house and rescue me. Fine, I'll agree to anything you want. Not a good idea. So then you agree to it and you're throwing more money down the drain. And then you get close to closing, and this happened all the time in 2008 and 2009. And the buyer says this, oh, whoa. I'm backing out of the contract because the house right down the street just closed for $100,000 less than what I'm under contract, and it's the identical floor plan. So lower your price $100,000 or I'm out. And a lot of you sellers are like, oh my gosh, okay, I just got to get out of here. Now, you don't know why that house dropped $100,000. You don't even do any research, but your knucklehead discount realtor's telling you, yeah, you got to do it because they want to get paid and they just wasted 30, 45 days on market. Not a good idea to do that. This is what I'd recommend instead. So in a declining market, more than likely that buyer is going to be getting a reasonable price on your house. And they probably know it, especially if negotiations went on. So you can push back on the terms a little bit. Like, hey, we're lowering our price. And you're not market value, but even the market's declining. So maybe you went a little lower than you like, but then you can push back on terms. This is what I would do. And this is what I did in 2008 and 2009 that worked beautifully for me. And that is I moved up the contingencies, meaning I gave the buyer a certain amount of time that was shorter than standard time. So that was 10 days, meaning that the buyer had 10 days to do all of their investigations, you know, their home inspection, their termite investigation, their septic tank, whatever, all their inspections. And they had a shorter period of time to get loan approval. That's maybe 12 or 14 days. And then after all the contingencies were released, I would ask that buyer to release a certain portion of their earnest money deposit refundable. I want them to have some skin in the game. And then so when you get down to the end of the contract and they go, oh, that neighbor down the street there and dropped their price $100,000, you're going to say, hey, that's not on me. I don't know why they dropped their price. Have your agent figure it out. But we have an agreed upon, fully executed contract. And, I got some earnest money at risk from you. People hate losing money. They hate it. Now, a lot of you smarty pants out there are going to tell me, oh, that's not enforceable, but that's for a whole other video. But it does psychologically make the buyers feel like they're a lot more invested in the property when they have some earnest money at risk that's sitting in your bank account. Another term I want you to really focus on in a declining market is you want to close as quickly as you can. So I would almost drop the price a little bit more, but have them close in 20 days. And the reason for that is because if the market's declining, you might have a neighbor that closes $100,000 below with the same floor plan, similar upgrades. And now the buyer, depending on where you are in the contract cycle, can back out and get their earnest money, and it's no skin off their nose. And now you're going to put your house on the market for much lower because now you have a terrible comp in your neighborhood. And by the way, that's what happened in 2008 and 2009. So you want to close as soon as you can. I know a lot of you are like, no, I don't know where I'm going to go. And I just want to go 45 days, 90 days. The market's correcting pretty rapidly. That's a really bad strategy. This next one, I want to scare you. In fact, I want to scare you to death. I want to spook you. I mean, it is Halloween after all. This is so dang important. In a declining market, a lot of businesses shut down. And in 2008 or during the Great Recession, there was a lot of escrow and title companies that closed business and they ran with the money. Imagine you finally sell your house, it goes into an escrow, a title company, and you're like, where's my money? And they just close their doors and take off with your money. It happens. So you need to be very selective with your title and your escrow company. Now, I use Colleen Mckee with Escrow Options. I'll put her information right here. She's the best escrow agent that I've ever worked with. And trust me, I've worked with a lot. But the company is an independent escrow company. I'm going to put on the screen right here to show you the differences in escrow companies and title companies. But that is so important. So if you're working with an agent, remember, they are not the ones that get to select the escrow and title company. You as a seller get to select. So do your research before you even put your house on the market. Make sure you're working with a very well-known, long-standing escrow and title company. I mean, you need to get your money, right? In a declining market, it's really hard to psychologically prepare for it. But the only advice that I can tell you is just know where you're at. So in the beginning of this video, I was talking about an appreciating market. So you have to understand, in an appreciating market, the sellers benefit. But once that seller went to go sell their home and they had to buy something else, guess what? It wasn't easy for them either. And in a declining market, you got to look at it this way. Like I said, mindset is if you sell your house for less than what you think and the market's not cooperating, when you go to buy a house, guess what? You're more than likely going to get, let's just say, a better price because the market is in your favor as a buyer. So, there's always pros and cons to any market for the buyer or the seller. Just have the proper mindset. Be patient with yourself. Give yourself some grace. It is a very emotional journey. I don't care what market we're in. All right. Thank you so much for watching this video. And thank you so much for my 100,000 subscribers. I can't thank you enough. Once again, we're doing the drawing November 13th at noon, and we'll be advertising the live stream soon. All right. Have a good night and happy Halloween.